Assalamu alaikum. I've come here to talk to you about the future, about your future, my people's future, and our shared future. This is a future that chooses cooperation over conflict, hope over hostility, and friendship over fear. A future that's dependent on all the people here in the room. I'm so happy to be here. I want to begin by telling you what an honor it is for me to be here as the Prime Minister of Israel on the first official visit in the wonderful Kingdom of Babhariin, to be here in a room speaking to young people from Babhariin. Who would imagine? Who would imagine? Today I met earlier His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the Crown Prince, and we had very meaningful discussions. I thank them for their very warm welcome and warm hospitality, and for their courage, the courage on embarking on this change, this incredible change that's taking place before our eyes in the Middle East. And I thank all of you for coming here today, because we're all together going to play a role in shaping the future of our region. There was once a tent, and it was our home, the home of every person in this room. This is the tent of Abraham, Ibrahim. So Abraham, you know, was not just your average leader. He was a man of God. He was also a man of the world. He traveled the world. He was a family man, and people don't realize, but he was also a very capable business person. He was a man who was both attached to his faith, but at the same time, and because of his faith, he was open to the world. And you know, everyone was invited into Abraham's tent. It was a tent wide open to all four directions. Everyone was invited. And I think it's remarkable that the historic agreements between Israel and the Arab nations are called the Abraham Accords. You know, when I became Prime Minister, I was asked what I think about the term Abraham Accords. Will we continue it? You know, it was my predecessor who signed the deal, and I said, of course, there could not be a better name for this peace, for this relationship. And religion in the Middle East no longer needs to be defined by brutality and extremism. Because for like-minded leaders of the Abraham Accords, our faith is the glue that heals the wounds of the past, and it strengthens a connection between us. All of the leaders in the Abraham Accords are people of faith. My Bahraini friends, we sit together in the great tent of Abraham, and in this tent, nobody's a stranger. We're all one family. We're lucky enough to live in these times that will go down in history books. What will be written in the history books is up to each and every one of us to define the future and how it will look. And that's why I wanted to speak to you, the younger generation, today. And through you, I'd like to convey to young people, young Arab people across the region, the Middle East, these are extraordinary times. And after a decade of regional instability and 2 years of pandemic that we all hope is going away, but it's sort of still lingering there. And while the world is in turbulence, even these very days, we're blessed with a unique opportunity to build bridges, And yeah, we have different cultures, we practice different religions, but actually we're on the same side. We're on the side of those who choose hope over hostilities and possibilities over the problems. You see, the fault line used to be between Arabs and Israelis. But now the fault line is a different one. It's between agents of terror and chaos and people of hope and building. Now, the future of the relations between our nations don't depend just on ceremonies and declarations. It depends and builds on real connections between people. And the best way to connect is meeting. There's no better way. Meeting face to face. And that's why I urge all of you to come and visit Israel. Come and visit Israel. Come and see what Israel is really about. And I can promise you the Israeli people will wait for you and welcome you with open arms. The Middle East is changing so rapidly, and I'm convinced that Israel's growing relationships with Babharian and other countries in the region, we're the leading force of this profound change. And we need to shape it, not let others, some close around, shape our future. And today we're creating a new reality in the Middle East that will greatly benefit our people, our countries, and the region. We have to seize the momentum of the Abraham Accords, and we have to take this opportunity and make the most of it. We have a structure, we have a frame, but we have to fill it with content. Because to be honest, the first year of the Abraham Accords between Babharian and Israel, there was a lot of ceremony, but we don't have enough trade, we don't have enough tourism, we don't have enough connections, and that's what this visit is all about. I'll read you a piece from the Torah. ויאמר אברהם אל לוט, אל נא תהי מריבה ביני וביניך ובין רועי ובין רועיך, כי אנשים אחים אנחנו. You want to know what I just said? So what I said was, so Abraham said to Lot, and I believe in the Quran is called Lut. So he said, let's not have strife or a conflict between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. So we are brothers, and together, God willingly, we're going to fulfill Abraham's dream. Thank you very much. And now is the fun part. Now I want to hear you. Want to hear any questions, any thoughts that you may have. I'm also going to ask you a bunch of questions. So why don't we go ahead? And I know a bunch of you have...
Yes, thank you very much, Prime Minister. We'll begin with Muhammad Kamal. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. So my question to you is, what do you think are the main opportunities for cooperation between Bahrain and Israel?
And what do you do?
I'm an assistant relationship manager in the National Bank of Bahrain. So
Okay.
Banking sector.
So you, with customers, a
Yes.
relationship
Yes.
manager. Today, used to be customer service, then it's customer support, then it's customer success. They change it every few years. So I think your question is very important, and the question is, what can we do together, actually? And that's the very goal of my visit here. I came here precisely because we have a framework of friendship and peace, but we want to make it work. We need this stuff to actually happen. And really the sky's the limit. But to be more specific, well, as I said, I think if we want stuff to work, we need to meet each other. The single easiest way to begin meeting each other is tourism. And business will follow tourism. Right now, tourism is very, very little. What we've got now is 2 flights from Bachrén to Israel a week. In your airlines, we're going to add in the upcoming March another 2 flights a week in an Israeli airline called Israel. And then I can tell you, you're going to get a lot of Israelis coming over. Be careful what you wish for. You're going to get like swarms of Israelis on good deals here, but it's good. And then the next step, what's going to happen, it's going to begin infiltrating into the business. When people see They're going to start thinking, all right, let's start doing this business and that. Yeah. Specifically, the way I view things developing, generally I don't think a government can tell business people, oh, you go and do this and that. It's got to develop. But I do think there's particular areas that caught my eye. Technology. And in Israel, we've got a bunch of high-tech technologies, but we're hungry for talent. So Bahrain's got talent, right? So that's one thing. What I discussed with the Crown Prince is we'll get a bunch of CEOs of mid-stage high-tech to come over and begin getting employees. And I want to pitch you why it's worthwhile, because I know there's some multinationals coming here, but for a Bahraini young woman or man at the beginning of their career, I would submit that it's a much better career choice to join some Israeli startup, say at 100 employees, as opposed to a multinational with 200,000 employees where you're just a little piece in a big system writing code. When you enter an Israeli startup, you sort of learn everything, right? You start writing code, and then 2 months later they take you to a business meeting, and you find yourself in business development, and then, so the sky is the limit. In my previous life, I used to be in high tech before I made the profound mistake of joining politics. So the secretary, office manager, there's no secretaries, just an office manager, she had no university degree and grew because in high tech, and today she's a vice president of marketing in a big company. By the way, she never got a university degree. She was too busy making progress. Because what's unique about high tech, I think more than any business field, is you're judged by your character, by what you actually do, and not by your CV. And especially in Israeli companies. So, long story short, come and work in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister.
Thank you. Yusuf Al-Mahmoud, please. Thank you.
Private and public sectors. What is the secret of this long journey?
Luck. No. So, Yusuf, what do you do?
I'm the head of international cooperation in the National Audit Office.
In the National Auditors? So that's a governmental...
that is actually...
part of government?
We audit the government.
You audit the government.
Exactly.
Mevaker Hamdina. Yeah, I get it. In Israel, the guy writes a report like a bunch of times a year, and you get the report, and then you should fix it. So, and are you married?
Yes, I am.
How many kids?
2 kids.
2 kids. Like you got married at the age of 16 or something?
Not really, 27.
20, okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit old.
What are their names?
Khalid and Thuraya.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So, the question, what the success? Yeah. So beyond the luck, I'd say 2 main things. One, and this is the biggest rule for me personally. When you're about to do something, whatever, you want to form a company, you want to form a political party, you want to do an NGO, whatever you do, choose the right partners. That's the single most important decision you'll make in starting a company. Way more important than the product, which will change gazillion times, the strategy, the markets, everything changes. In my company, my first company, so we were four of us. Myself, Michal Tzul, she's a doctor of law, and 2 other smart people. We started with 1 product it failed utterly. 2 years later, we pivoted to another product that barely succeeded. And then 2 years later, we hit the third, fourth, and fifth product, and they were the jackpot. So it's like going on an adventure. You don't know exactly how it's going to develop. You need the right partners. And the right partners, if it's in entrepreneurship, I would define the right partners the following. One, you want optimistic people because life is tough. And you want to be surrounded by people who are optimistic. You want realistic, optimistic people because you don't want to be in high spheres. You want execution-oriented people, people who move from idea to action quickly. You don't want philosophers in startups. You want them in university. You want people who care much more about the mission than their piece in the mission. So they're less focused on, oh, I don't have a good enough job. They want the company to succeed. They want their organization to succeed. So it's about the success of everyone. And you want smart people. They got to be smart. That's pretty much the first rule. And the second one is don't give up. Just don't give up. It's always going to be tough. I told you, we had invented this new product and we thought it's the best thing in the world and we were the only ones, and then 3 months later it turned out that there's an Irish company with the precise same product but did it a year before. And what are we going to do now? So we changed, and you move and you fail and you lose. Our first bid we lost, and our second, so it's tough. Don't give up. Just don't, if you believe in what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What didn't I expect? In public service. Well, public service and the high-tech sector in many ways are an antithesis of each other. So it's like a different laws of physics. And in our world, when you drop this, it falls. In the other world, it falls up or something. And what do I mean? In my high-tech companies, it was all about, come in the morning and we're all for one big goal. In politics, while I can say my goal is the good of Israel, but politics is tough and everyone has his own unique interests, and so you've got a gazillion different entities that are all with different interests. Secondly, in high-tech, my goal as a CEO was I wanted every single employee to know everything that I know as much as possible. Like, give them all the information. Why? Because if each employee knows everything and they want the company to succeed, good stuff will happen, bottom up. In politics, you don't want to tell everyone everything, do you? So it took me many years to learn this. And in politics, I'll tell you how I view the world. A politician has two missions. One is to build political strength, and the other is to use the strength for the good of, in my case, the good of Israel. And you have to do both. If you don't have political strength, you can be a nice guy, but you're not going to be able to influence. And if you're only focused on political strength, but you don't care about your country, then you're corrupt. You're a bad guy. So it's always about balancing, and you have to look at those two dimensions on everything you do. You can't let go of one of them. And it's tough. Thank
you. Rawan Taufiki.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for this opportunity. My question is, since we're talking about youth development and empowerment, what are your priorities in the youth sector?
Again, what's your name?
Rawan.
Rawan.
Yes.
And what do you do?
I'm a credit review manager in Bbahrain Development Bank.
A credit review manager?
Yes.
So you're the one who approves or not the loans?
Almost, yeah.
And you look at all the...
Exactly, the whole package.
Married?
Yes,
How many kids?
2.
2.
Yes.
What's your plan? No, I'm well, youth. I'll tell you what my thought is. I think that it's all about opportunity. Now that sounds like a cliche. I want to bring it down to life. You take 2 identical twins, okay? Got the same genes, the same inherent IQ, whatever. And you put them through a different path, one that has opportunities and challenges and has to overcome them. And while overcoming, he builds his character, he expands his abilities, and the other, you don't. They'll get to 2 completely different areas. So, everyone looks at their own life. I view that I was blessed with opportunities at a very young age. I was commanding soldiers at a young age, and that expands your abilities because you have to, but it can be in many areas. So I would say opportunities to face challenges at an early age. And I'll give you an example. I don't want to take everything to the military. In Israel, our military does provide fairly remarkable opportunities for young men and women at a very young age. You might have an intelligence officer and she's 21 years old and making huge decisions. But even without that, we have our formal education system in Israel is okay. It's not remarkable. It's not Finland. I'm being honest with you. I'll tell you what is remarkable. We have another secret sauce. It's youth movements. You take kids at the age of, say, 14, 15, 16, not within school, and they go out and do hikes. And they go out and volunteer, right? So now imagine you're a 14 or 16-year-old girl, and you're leading a hike in nature with 30 young rascals, right? And you're responsible for their feeding them, their security, and teaching them something. At the age of 16, how does that build you, right? So by the time, I think every country can create opportunities to build them. In Israel, I would say one of our biggest problems is Israel is very successful, but we have still tremendous gaps of opportunity between kids based on where they live. And that's not unfair. You live in a different zip code, you have a different opportunity. And that's something that it's on us, and it's a long journey. It's one of our biggest problems. If you're Arab or Bedouin or ultra-Orthodox or just live in some far-out place, you might have a lesser opportunity. We got to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime
Thank
Minister.
you.
Bassam Al-Tatan.
Good evening, Prime Minister. My question is about the challenges that has faced Israel during these difficult times of the pandemic, and what were the actions taken to overcome such difficulties.
Now, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Bassam, and I'm a senior relationship manager in private banking wealth management.
Married plus?
My wedding is next week.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. At His Excellency's favorite hotel, Gulf Hotel.
Which one, the Gulf Hotel?
Yeah.
We were only at the Four Seasons.
It's different league.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, before we talk about COVID, my advice is patience and respect for your wife.
Definitely, yeah.
It's not like in the movies. It's an investment. You have to invest in it. But it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good. So regarding COVID, So we had 5 waves of COVID in Israel, and I landed as Prime Minister right into the Delta wave, which was still under the current. So our goal was to keep Israel open, to do anything we can to keep Israel open while protecting people. I'm not in any of the extremes. There's one extreme that says, oh, this is just the flu. Well, it's not. It kills people. But the other extreme is close everything. And the problem is I keep on getting, you get a lot of contradictory information, and people the same day will say, you are so irresponsible, you're killing a whole generation, and then the other person will say, what are you doing? You're closing. And so what we did, there's no one path because every variant requires a different strategy, but what we did was fairly unique. I decided that I personally run it. As Prime Minister, the actual COVID national team, the day in, day out. So every day at 9 a.m., I did a Zoom with all the folks, the Ministry of Health folks, the education, the economy, the budget. Because COVID is not about health. It's also about health, but it's about society, it's about jobs, it's about education, it's about math, logistics. So it's not a silo. You know, they say wars are too important to leave it to generals, so you got to do it holistic. Now, the pace of government, apropos what you asked on high tech, governments are slow. I mean, darn slow. You want to move a pencil from one place to another, you got to go out on a bid, and you got to get legal approval, and before you talk, it's 2 months to move that pencil from one place to another. So the problem with COVID is that the virus doesn't care. It doesn't care that governments move slow. So I decided that I'm going to run it, and then everything will take hours instead of weeks. Yeah. So we decide that we're going to go out on a big testing campaign, or we decide, one of my decisions was I want our pharmacies to be able to sell rapid testing. When I came in, they couldn't sell rapid testing. Yeah. So we did it very rapidly, and the cycle of my day was usually, before I go to sleep, I learn the data in the world, what's going on, what's new, what's going on in the UK, is there a new medicine? Morning, 9 a.m., we get the information, think, decide, act, and follow up every day. And it's imperfect. It's a mess, but I think the operation was good, and the fact is that we got through wave 4 and 5 without 1 day of closure, without 1 day of closure of schools or businesses, and that's the reason that Israel's at 7% growth and 2.5% inflation. We're doing amazingly well because we didn't close the economy and we did fight COVID. And at the end of the day, if we as a government, we buy the vaccines, we distribute them, we make them available, we advertise, we urge, we beg, at the end of the day, there is a degree of responsibility for each citizen. So I hope it's over, but who knows?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Saud.
And good luck.
Saud Al-Hedi.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Israel is famously known as being the startup nation, having more startups per capita than any other country around the world. So can you tell us your secret?
What do you do?
I work with the payment systems for the country in the Central Bank of Bahrain.
So we're like at 80% financial services till now. Everyone's in finance. It's good. So the secret of the startup, it's a big question. I'll tell you, innovation is something that you cannot create bottom up. You can't tell people, okay, folks, by the end of the day, I want 3 new innovations from you, you, and you. Innovate. It doesn't work that way. innovation is something that you can create an environment that it might happen. In Israel, there's a couple of innate traits, but also some correct actions. The innate traits, the first thing is debate, the culture of debate. Jews love to argue. We're good at arguing. In fact, much of our heritage, this is really interesting, the Jewish heritage has a code of law, an ancient code of law called Talmud, where it's all about arguing between arguments that happened 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, arguments upon arguments, and we don't even care what the bottom line is. You know those folks learn, you know, that in many cases wear black and learn Talmud? So that's what they do. And this culture of argument is innate, embedded in our character. So Israelis argue. That's what we do. We debate, we argue. In the good case, it fosters innovation. In the bad case, it just becomes unpleasant. But one time I was a commander of soldiers, a platoon commander, and I told my folks, okay, we're going to take that mountain in an exercise. And one of the guys called Ohad, he said, why? What do you mean, why? I'm your commander. No, why? Why should we do it? The why question is very much, why? Not only what, why? So the same debates that our ancestors did for generations, you'll see it in Tel Aviv high-tech. You go into a high-tech, they're going to be screaming at each other, but good screams. So the first element is debate. The second element is a Israeli characteristic, and it's get things done. Make it happen one way or another. There's a term in Hebrew, a saying, if you can't get in through the door, come in through the window. If you can't get in through the window, punch a hole in the wall. You get in. So, and it's very similar because you need that element. Now, in terms of government, actually, the most important thing the government can do is nothing, is stay away, don't harm high-tech. Tell you a story. I told you we were 4 founders. So since I entered politics, each of them went on, two of them have a $1 billion company, not together, billion, and like $200 million company. And I'm the gray sheep in politics. But once a month, what I do, since I entered politics, I ask them, Lior, Ben, Michal, did the government screw up anything this month? And they usually say no, nothing, we're okay. And once in a while, once every couple of years, yeah, you're about to do a new law that'll make labor more complicated in high-tech. And then I go and thwart that because the best thing we can do as a government is just keep our hands off, let it be. And I think that there's a lot that we can do together, and we talked about, we're going to do it. We're going to come over, and I see in your eyes the desire to succeed, and we can learn from you, and vice versa. So I think there's a lot that we can do together, and looking forward to doing it.
And you brought me perfectly to my next question is, when can we visit?
You want to come on my plane?
Sure.
Give you a free ticket. We want you over ASAP. What we'll do, I'm going to talk to the Interior Minister, and we're going to figure out a way to smoothen the entry. It's got to be simple. So we're going to work out increasing the amount of flights, but yeah, come over. Just come over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the last question for this evening. We have no more time.
We're done. Any other questions? Feel free.
That's all we have time for.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Anything, so not questions, is there anything that you want to tell me about Bachriin that I'm going to be your ambassador there, so I want to sell Bachriin. So anything that you guys want to tell me? So do all of you work in, like, what do you do? In the legal, in a bank in the legal. What about you?
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Okay. What about you?
Municipalities.
Okay. And we
Bank.
talked. What about you?
I'm an academic. I'm a lecturer at the university.
What do you lecture?
Social sciences,
Social science?
and
Liberal arts programs as well.
Now, where do you all get the English? In school, in
Yes.
elementary school?
Our schooling system.
From the very beginning?
Yes. It's
In
dual
kindergarten?
language. Yes.
In kindergarten?
In kindergarten.
The,
yes.
the public education, private? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all of you, because it's great.
But the public as well, Prime Minister.
And public
Yes,
as
they
well.
do.
Yeah, we don't. We get it from YouTube. But I know my kids, that's where they get it. But we need to improve it. So is there anything that I should take home and as a message to Israelis, or anything that you feel you want to share? So we know it all. I want to thank you very much. And I want to tell you that this day has been remarkable. We're in many dimensions. I came to age in Israel, and it was known that Israelis and Arabs don't get along, and we have major challenges. It's no secret. But what I'm seeing here is just a degree of goodwill, of a different model, a model of working together in a tough environment that you're facing, we're facing, in many dimensions: security, climate, all of that. And what I see is a wonderful kingdom of folks that are looking to build a better future together. And it takes a lot of courage of the king and the crown prince and all the leadership and all the people. And on behalf of the Israeli people, I want to thank you. And I'm sure that we're going to do amazing things together. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.